I wasted $50,000 when I bought my first home right here in Ottawa. I was a new home buyer. I was eager to buy my first house. I had a small lawn care company, and at this time, my client was selling her home. I approached her, she gave me all the details. I did a tour of the home and moved forward. Everything seemed reasonable based upon condition. I've been cutting the grass for about 7 years of this property, so I went ahead and bought the home. But once I took possession, I fixed it up and I started to take a closer look at the real estate market. I had no clue how to establish value, especially back then. Leaning into it further, I can confirm that I paid a good $50,000 more than I should have. So I understand what it's like. If you're not quite sure what the value of the actual house is, the fear and emotion that can set in. In this video, I'm hopefully going to remove all that. I'm going to share with you my 5-step process that I use with all of my clients to answer this big question. What is the actual value of the home? Because the last thing you want to do is overpay, just like I did. Before we get into it, I want to myth bust a little bit. There's no such thing as an exact value for a home. Nobody on the planet can give you an exact dollar value for a resale property. It's just impossible. The best you'll get is a range of value. Example, between $760,000 and $775,000. Now, in the new home space, you will see exact value dollar amounts. And you may wonder, why is that? Well, it is the power that the seller holds. The builder has all the inventory. They set the price, they set the terms, and in almost all cases, the builders do not deviate from their list price. It's just like buying a car. When you buy a car, the price is the price. Sure, you might feel like you're getting a deal with upgrades or extended warranty or something, but when you buy a resale car, it's a negotiation at its best. There's a black book that will give you a range of value based upon the make, the year, number of kilometers. Same when you're buying a resale home. And that's what I'm going to help you out with. So how do you establish the value and find out actually what a price is worth? Well, it really comes down to 5 steps. Number 1, location. Number 2, age of property. Number 3, time it sold. Number 4, the style. And last but not least, the features and benefits. Oh yeah, quickly. If you're looking for help to buy a home, please reach out. I've helped over 1,000 people buy homes in Ottawa since 2002. I'll make sure you don't overpay, and if you're a seller, that you do not leave money on the table. So, the 5 steps for establishing value. Essentially, when we're looking at this, it's purely at sold data, and we're adding in filters just to narrow down that list of comparables to 3 to maximum 5 properties. Like you're going to start out with probably 50, 60, 75 comparables, and you want to bring it down to 3 to 5. So number 1, the location. You want to find homes as close as possible to the subject property. Ideally, one of the neighboring properties, maybe a street or 2 over. You don't want to be looking at properties like 30 kilometers away from the subject property. So age of property. I like to go back 5 years and go above 5 years. So what I mean by that is, say the property you're looking at moving on was built in 2005. I will look at homes that sold between 2000 and 2005, and then I will go up 5 years from 2005 to 2010. So I'll have a 10-year gap in terms of the age built. This is much different when you buy brand new construction, when you're going exactly at the year it was built. On the resale side, strongly encouraged to go 5 years below, 5 years above. The reason why we do this for the age 10-year gap is we want to compare a home of similar vintage. So if we're looking at this example of a 2005 year build, we don't want to be looking at homes that were built in 1973 when there were, say, aluminum wiring or, not having PVC pipe or something like that. So we need to make sure that we're comparing exact apple to apple from a material and like at time of construction. Number 3, time that it's sold. So we ideally want to go back 12 months. Anything further than that, it's way too difficult. You'd have to do a calculation of, say, time value of money. It's way too arbitrary, and there's too many assumptions that would have to be made. Ideally, the last 6 months. We're out of COVID, post-COVID right now. But if you were to compare a property that's sold in COVID days, you'd be completely on a different planet. Like an example for you, I sold a home recently in Riverside South. It sold for $975,000. Detached property, but the neighbor right beside sold for $1.4 million. That's over $425,000 difference. And the reason being is that was during COVID days. So time value of money is impossible to put a line item in some type of percentage change. So 6 to 12 months is the max we want to go back from time sold. Number 4, style of property. So detached, row unit, semi-detached, you got to compare a detached property to a detached property. You're not going to be comparing, a detached property to an apartment building. So style of property will really help you narrow down all of the comparisons. You can get more micro on that. As an example, if you're looking at row unit, an end unit row unit versus an inside row unit, there's definitely, an adjustment required and an appraisal adjustment. We see property all the time listed on MLS where it's an end unit property, but they haven't marked it as end unit. It's just as an inside unit or just a row unit, in fact. So you're missing out on it. So make sure you're comparing as close to the style of property that you're trying to establish value to ones that have sold. Other example, a 2-story property versus a bungalow. That's a big one. That you don't want to be comparing a bungalow that's just 1 floor to a property that has 2 floors or 3 floors. When we're looking at style of property, one thing I don't want to get hung up on is square footage. Square footage is key when you're looking at buying a brand new house. But on the resale side, when you're trying to establish value, ignore it, because the actual data point that's inputted on that is not always true or reflective, and it just kind of gets glossed over. It's more of, is the property a similar type property, i.e. detached property, bungalow, 2-story. Don't go down a rabbit hole of trying to establish square footage, because then you're going to get buried into, well, did the square footage include the basement, or is the square footage above grade? It's just a hot mess in that side. From my experience, we really just want to compare the style of property. Finishing off, number 5 is the features and benefits. Now, this is an area where I've seen a lot of people make mistakes. And the reason being, it's more subjective. 20 plus years doing this, we really just want to work off of the following 4 items when we're talking about features and benefits. Number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Is the basement finished or not? Is there an ensuite bathroom? Yes or no? And then the last one, which I love to use because it really helps me filter and narrow down the comparisons, is the number of garages, whether it's a single car or a double car garage in that sense. Those ultimately are the 4 that you need to keep your eye on when you're looking at features and benefits. Some areas that you're going to want to ignore. It's tempting. You're going to want to put them in when you're trying to filter down, but I would strongly encourage you to ignore are, say, fireplaces. The number of fireplaces in a property. Oh, the one I'm looking at has 3 fireplaces. If you start putting 3 fireplaces in, it's going to mess with the data. You're not going to get an authentic read on that. Another one would be a pantry off the kitchen. I got some buyers right now I'm working with. They're obsessed with having a pantry in the kitchen. That's important. We'll make sure the property they buy has that. But when I'm establishing value for them and they're about to make that offer, we're not putting that in as a line item. A few other ones here for you. Mudroom. Families like mudrooms, kids are busy, home from school, hockey, sports. Having a mudroom is definitely important, but there's not a line item or an area within our filtering process to bring down, say, mudroom. And last, laundry on the second floor. We get it a lot, and almost all properties now have laundry on the second floor. But properties that were built in the 2000s, the 90s, 80s, 70s, it just wasn't common for a laundry room to be on a second floor. So they'd be on either the main and then typically in the basement. You don't want to start putting in, say, laundry on the second floor as a filter, because it's not going to give you a really authentic read. And your data point, which is ultimately what you're looking for in this whole video, you're trying to get data. You're trying to get 3 to 5 comparisons, sold homes that you can then confidently work off of when you're establishing value. If you start putting stuff in like fireplaces, laundry on the second floor, pantry, it's not the way to go about doing it, and you're going to get really confused and not have a strong position on price. Well, folks, that wraps up the 5 steps you need to take when you're establishing value to make sure you don't overpay for a property. The benefit on all of this is making sure you're aligning value with other homes that have actually sold. You do not want to start out like I did in my very first house, paying 50 grand more than you need to. So if you're looking for help to buy a home in Ottawa, please reach out. I'd love to help out. I actually have a love it or leave it program. What this means is if you're not happy in the first 12 months of living in your home, I'll come in and sell it for free. That's my benefit. That's my guarantee to you, to making sure that you are happy and 100% behind the house you buy. So if you're looking at buying a property and concerned about the market, worrying that you're going to overpay for it, reach out. I'd love to help out. This is what I do. I've been selling homes right here in Ottawa since 2002. I'll be implementing these 5 steps on your behalf to make sure you can make a quality decision based upon data, recent solds comparable to the property you're about to buy. Look forward to hearing from you.